baby. Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope that you are having a great Saturday so far and a great weekend. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another spectacular episode of The Color of Motion, where I highlight people of color in diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, and comics. This space that I'm just ecstatically crazy about. What can I say? Which is why I'm here every week. And like I said, I hope everybody is having a great weekend. Make sure that you give ECAM permission to pull your information. This is, I guess, mainly for Facebook. So I can give you the shout out that you so richly deserve. You know the drill. Jump in the comments. Say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Miss J, I appreciate you. Yep. Whoop, whoop. This is going to be a good one for sure. Looking forward to having you back on as well. But appreciate the connect. Again, like I said, make sure that you jump into the comments and engage with this show. Definitely want to make it engaging. Also, make sure you hop on over to the Facebook group community. Get plugged in, facebook.com/groups/The Color of Motion. Join the community. We have a great time over there. Share industry news, good conversation, and all around fun for sure. And definitely don't want you to miss out at all. So, also, what else? Also, before we get going, I want to thank our sponsor, DG Graphics. All the graphics, animations, and, graphics and animations and overlays that you see, do thanks in large part to DG Graphics. So if you're a business or brand looking to level up or start your own live stream show, definitely reach out to them because they can make you look good too. So thank you, DG Graphics, for supporting the show. What else, man? Also, like I said, we stream to LinkedIn. Wow, wouldn't you know? This messed up on me again. I don't know why it's been acting up on me. For some reason, I'm going to jump over for sure. We're going to do it this way. Make sure that you get connected with me on all my social channels. It's acting up. Definitely, this isn't the right scene, but you can still see it anyway. Like I said, the nature of live, you got to roll with it. I don't know why this particular scene wants to act up on me. But I definitely want to hear from you. Connect with me on all my social channels. Let me know what you think of the show. Any particular guests you would like me to try and get on. Hey, I'm down for it for sure. Also, like I said, we do live stream too. You can check us out on LinkedIn, YouTube, or any Facebook pages or groups. But I always kind of highly suggest, let me slide over here. I always kind of highly suggest that everybody go over to the YouTube channel, check out the episode, hit the bell notification, subscribe, comment, give a thumbs up. Definitely helps out the channel and the content going up. And there you can check out all the past great episodes that we had so far. So definitely don't want you to miss out. So, be a part of the community for sure. What else? Like I said, I think I've pretty much got all the little housekeeping stuff kind of out the way. Like I said, we got a lot of great things planned for the show for this season. Super excited about this episode. Been looking forward to it for a while. Like I said, my next guest, super great, and we were having a great conversation for the show. So this is going to be a fun one for sure. With that, I think we can pretty much get ready to get dived into it there. Again, make sure you, like I said, say hello, comment, and let me know where you're tuning in from, because I definitely want you to engage in this episode. My next guest without further ado, is from Detroit, Michigan, kind of my stomping ground, Ohio, Michigan. I got family there in Detroit, so it's kind of a stomping ground there. Detroit, Michigan, and went to school for animation. Her first job was 2 years after graduating from an animation company in South Korea, where she was a 3D modeler on Family Guy, The Cleveland Show, Batman, The Brave and the Bold, and Scooby-Doo. She worked at TurboSquid for a few years and then was an animation specialist for Louisiana Economic Development. While in New Orleans, she was very involved in education outside of work and the Urban League movement. She also did presentations, workshops, and classes about animation around New Orleans and across the state of Louisiana. And has now since moved to Los Angeles a little bit before the pandemic started. She's taught Blender to ninth and 10th graders and has a YouTube channel of her own called BlkWmnAnimator, where she interviews animation professionals and speaks on various topics. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special friend and guest, Miss Deborah Anderson. Yeah. Deborah, good to have you on. Oh, now it's your turn to be on this side of the mic there.
Right.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am ecstatically good. Just super been looking forward to this episode. Like I said, when we first connected, found out you're from Detroit, and you definitely have the Detroit personality for sure. So, hit it off really well.
It's also on my license plate. Got the personalized license plate, Detroit.
Oh, Detroit. Yeah, you're like my niece. She lives in Atlanta now, but she's a diehard Detroiter. So she's
Yeah.
They're hard Detroiter.
I mean, people sometimes are diehard Detroiters. You gotta represent.
You gotta represent. Hey, I always say, like I said, I've been here in Houston 35
You always
years.
know when people from Texas.
Yeah, well, I'm not from Texas.
I'm not talking about you, but
yeah,
people, when people from
Texas. Yeah. People say, "Oh, you're a Texan now." No, I'm always a Buckeye. I'm a Buckeye transplanted. Yeah, you can't take that from me. I'm a Buckeye. Tried and true. Oh, man. So, like I said, I've been super, super looking forward to this episode. Like I said, and was just ecstatic when Jay, mentioned you and connected us. And just, it's been great ever since. And enjoyed watching your show as well. Like I said, you have some great guests, which we're going to be talking about your podcast and what you're doing with BlkWmnAnimator. But kind of let's jump into it. I mean, what initially got you interested in 3D animation?
So I don't have a typical journey of like most people in animation where they're like, yeah, I watched Little Mermaid and I knew I wanted to do that. Like, I just like, okay, cool, Little Mermaid, Lion King, that's let me, because I was good at math and art, so I was like, okay, I want to be an architect. I wanted to be an industrial engineer. I had like a phase where I would draw shoes from the side. I don't know what that was about, but I could have went into industrial design, and then I wanted to become an electrical engineer, and then luckily I was smart. And then my dad taught is a professor, or he worked for the state of Michigan, but he also a professor, and so he knew about dual enrollment. And so dual enrollment, for those who don't know, is when you take college courses when you're in high school. And so my junior and senior year, I took 7 classes at Schoolcraft Community College in Livonia, Michigan. And the 7th class was animation. And then I'm like, oh, my senior year of high school, I find my place. And so that kind of meant it was like, okay, where do I want to go to college now? Because I feel like animation, 3D animation in particular, was a great mesh of my creative and my analytical side. So it was like I could like push points and stuff like that, but I could also be creative.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, you didn't you knew right away you didn't want to be an animator per se or a modeler, or did it take you a minute to kind of figure out, I
Yeah.
really love modeling per se more than.
Yeah, because it was like that class in high school was like just introducing me to 3D in general. I think it was a 3ds Max class, and I haven't used 3ds Max since then. uh,
I
but in
haven't touched it.
but in college, we used Maya, which can be a very intimidating program when you open it up. And then we went through all the stuff. Like I really liked lighting and rendering. My lighting and rendering class that I took with my professor Aharon Sharnoff. But modeling um, was my was the thing that I landed on. Like animation, I can do it, but I always felt like I could push it more, and so it wasn't the innate thing where it's like, oh yeah, this is really good. It's just like, yeah, that's okay. So that's how I landed on modeling. I always like building stuff. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would like take my mom's like pantyhose core board from the pantyhose and I like shoe boxes and cut it up and put like tape and put like make dresser drawers and beds and stuff, or
I
like
think
if
they
we had
call them
furniture.
dioramas. Yeah, almost
Yeah.
like
if
dioramas. Yeah.
Yeah, if we had like furniture, I'll be like, oh, I'll put it together. So that's kind of the engineer part why I wanted to become an engineer because I like building stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess 3D modeling, yeah, does play
Yeah.
well into that for sure. Where did you go? I mean, to school for animation. Um,
So Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York.
oh, okay.
Literally, when I was choosing colleges, I only had three options because I also wanted to play basketball, and so art schools don't have sports. And so I was choosing between Savannah College of Art and Design, which
Oh
was
man.
at the time was like a D2 school, RIT, which is a D3 school, and then St. Clair College in Canada, which I don't remember what they were. And then, I did all this, like I did dual enrollment. I graduated 10th of my class, like in high school, but when it got to applying for colleges, I was like, SCAD requires a portfolio. Meh, I guess I'll apply to RIT. So that's
Did
how
they
I
have
ended
a?
up going.
You wanted to play basketball? They have a basketball team? They don't
Yeah,
have. Oh, they
they're
do.
D2. At least when I went to school, they were like D2. And so yeah, like I just kind of didn't want to do a portfolio. I had the stuff to do it. Like I had drawings and everything, but I was just like, RIT doesn't require a portfolio. Going
Oh man, jeez, jeez. I remember. Well, I guess I'm just old because I still have my big portfolio case that we used to
They had
carry on.
that freshman year,
Yeah,
but because I took dual enrollment, I had transfer credit, so I didn't have to carry that big art case. Because at RIT, it's the way it's set up. It's like a lot of wind tunnels, so you be carrying that case and almost blow away. So
oh
I
man.
tested out, like I got transfer credit for all those. I was
Yeah.
actually a sophomore after my first quarter at RIT.
Oh man. So what was it that, or let me before I ask this, how were your like you said your dad was in kind of a educational type of person. How were they with kind of encouraging your artistic side in profession?
Yeah, growing up, I never really asked for Barbies. I always asked for art supplies. And so um, once I like moved my dad at like middle school, uh, he was very supportive. He's very like do what you want with his children. like, like as long as you are passionate, he's like, do.
Okay, I'm
And he's
behind you.
artistic too. He apparently taught me how to draw. I don't
Okay,
remember because I was so young.
okay.
But I remember when I lived with my mom in Detroit, and she had the little shiffer robe, and I opened it up, and there was like a drawing of like a squirrel, and it was really nice. And my dad had done it, and I was like, I feel like that was my first, like when I was old enough to realize, like I get because younger he taught me how to draw, but I didn't. It didn't compute. And then when I
Yeah.
saw that drawing, I was like, oh, my dad is artistic. And I remember once I moved with him, we went to the lake one time. I think I still have a drawing he did of the lake and stuff
Oh
like that.
wow,
So
wow.
it was
Yeah.
just that, maybe the time he was born in where he couldn't pursue it, maybe. But
Awesome, awesome. So how did you know, get to Korea? I mean, how do you transfer over from animation school to a job over in Korea?
So basically, well, graduating college in 2008 helped. Like it made it really hard to get a job because the economy. But I was trying to apply to animation positions and I wasn't getting anything. Like I interviewed for a position where it would have like it was like with Raytheon or Northrop Grumman, and like you would have started in El Paso, Texas, and then went to Oklahoma. I was like, that's bad to worse. And
I don't
so
know if my El Paso friends, hey,
no shade.
no shade, no
But
shade.
as a 20-something-year-old, I don't know how many people want to move to El Paso or Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know if yeah, especially well, I ain't gonna say especially Oklahoma, but that's not
Yeah, I
the
mean, I'm sure
first
it's lit.
destination.
They got something,
Yeah,
but
they
I don't
got
know.
black people in Oklahoma. Yeah.
But so I was applying to animation stuff, and I wasn't getting any hits. And like there's somebody I went to college with, Carmen Council, or I think she's married now, but she like was posting pictures of like bungee jumping and doing all this other stuff, and I like reached out to her and I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I'm teaching English in Korea. And so before then I had never heard of it, and so I decided if by like May, June of 2009, if I don't get a job in animation, then I'm gonna just go teach English in Korea, because living in a foreign country is the only thing that's comparable to like getting a job in animation. And so um, I didn't get a job, and so I started applying to be in Korea by like August. And so ignorance is bliss. So if you know the information, then you might not do it. So if I knew, like, if you want to be in Korea by August, you should start applying in March. But I didn't know that. So I was applying in May and June, which is kind of late, but I still
Yeah.
got there.
Wow.
And so it was like a really quick, I did a lot of research, but it also was like a really quick decision. Like from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, she's like vibrant and like takes risk. And it's like, no, I did a lot of research. And also, if you had asked me in January 2009, like if you had told me in January 2009 that I was gonna be in Korea in August, I'd have called you a bold-faced lie. Like, what? That's
Wow.
random. Like, I don't even know Korea. What is that?
So, what was
So
the
it was
type
like,
of things that you researched? Going over.
um, I researched like just the culture, and we already talked about how I'm bad with directions. So I was like, how am I get around? And then I was really worried because they were saying that they had street signs, but they ain't using them to do directions. But once you get there, it's like, just landmarks. Like, everybody do that. Like, oh, go to the Burger King, turn right.
Yeah,
Or like
yeah.
the bus stop or the subway station. So it wasn't that bad. And I did research because I don't drink. And so Korea has like a huge drinking culture.
Really?
And so I was kind of worried about that too. But me being a foreigner and being a woman kind of helped, where they didn't really pressure me. Like Americans pressure me all the time. Like,
It's
oh, it
America.
won't taste like it.
Yeah,
Like, I haven't drank since like 2009. Yes, it will.
yeah.
Everything tastes like alcohol. But so I was worried about that, but they didn't really pressure me about
Wow.
that. So, and
So,
then
was it a
just the
big?
typical research.
Yeah. So, was it a hard acclimation for you when you did get over there?
I mean, it was a culture shock because it's like a totally different place. I didn't speak the language. I it was just such a quick decision that I didn't know what I was expecting. Like when after we left the orientation and we all dispersed to our cities, like my high school co-teacher picked me up and he was kind of taking me around, showing me where my middle school was and where the high school was. And he dropped me off, and I remember sitting on the bed and I'm like, I'm just a dot. Like, I don't know where I am in relation to anything else. Like, before he left, I was like, please write down where I live, because I need to be, if I go somewhere, I need to be able to get back, because I'm
Get
not going
back.
to remember. Like, please write in Korean so I can throw a taxi, like, okay, I live here.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. So obviously, because I think I've seen like positions for that they train you
Hmm.
on teaching English, because that wasn't something that you've done before.
Yeah, it
Teach.
was much easier in 2009 than it is now. Like, in 2009, you just needed to be from like these five English speaking countries, have a degree in anything, and just go. But now you got to have like the tip certificate. You got to, it's a lot now.
Wow. So I mean, what's just as an example, what's the process for teaching, English to Koreans? I mean,
So I went through a recruiting company. I went through a place called Footprints Recruiting, and so they kind of helped me. One thing that with going there at that time, I guess because of the economy, they usually like overhired people, and then sometimes people wouldn't show up. And so I guess in 2009 was that special time where like everybody was showing up, and so the recruiting agency told me that I got um, a position in Seoul because Seoul is the capital, so that's the only city I knew of, and so that's the city I chose, and I was like, okay. I didn't tell many people that I was doing it, except like my family. And so once I got a position, I'm like on Facebook, like, yeah, I'm about to go to South Korea. And then a couple of days later, they're like, oh, they overhired people, so you don't have a job. I'm like, I just told everybody that I'm going to Korea. And so, but luckily, because it was through a recruiting agency, they found me another job, which was in Gwangju, which I had never heard of. It was like the fifth or sixth largest city. But actually, I enjoyed my time in Gwangju more than when I lived in Seoul working for the animation company because I was also trying to learn the language, and everybody in Seoul wanted to speak to me in English. I'm like, can y'all speak Korean, please? I'm trying to learn.
oh man. But when you first got there, you were teaching English to
Yeah,
Koreans.
yeah.
Um,
I taught at all girls high school and all girls middle school.
okay, okay. So, I mean, what's the process in teaching? I'm curious in teaching
Uh,
English to.
So you have a co-teacher. So there's Korean people who work at the school who teach like all the grammar and stuff. So I decided I don't know what other people do, but what I decided was that Koreans are really good at reading and writing, but they're not good at speaking and listening. So when I went to class, I highly concentrated on getting them to talk, and because I wasn't an English teacher, like I didn't have a degree. I'm a native speaker. We don't be knowing grammar like that. So, but we talk. So, so I would like, okay, let me leave the grammar and all that stuff to the teachers, and then I'll just do lessons where I get them to speak as much as possible. Because I remember one day they were like, "What's the difference? Like in this sentence, how do you know if you say somebody or anybody?" And as a native, I'm like, it just feels right. You just know. I don't know the like technical. I'm
Technical
like,
grant.
ask the co-teachers. They probably know better than I do. It's just like in this sentence, it's anybody. Like I don't understand. I
Oh
don't know
man.
why, but it just makes sense.
Oh man, they come out teaching or talking Detroit. Oh man. For those just joining us, we are having a fun conversation with my friend Deborah Anderson, Mr. Craig Tinsley. Appreciate you tuning
Craig,
in and supporting.
you should have
Uh,
him on your show.
yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll talk after the episode and let me know what Craig, because I'm pretty sure all your connections are in the industry, so definitely we'll be looking to have him on the show. Again, this Facebook user, I'm not typically checking my Facebook, so if you can share your name, Facebook user, or give Ecamm permission to pull your contact info, I can give you the shout out you deserve there for sure. But appreciate you tuning in and checking out the episode. Miss Maggie, appreciate you too. Another Baton Rougean. That's my cousin in Baton Rouge. I'm laughing, Maggie, because Deborah and she worked in New Orleans, or worked in Baton
Lived in New
Rouge
Orleans.
and lived in New Orleans, so she was always commuting. So we were having a fun conversation about Baton Rouge and New Orleans before the show, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But my Baton Rouge cousin there, Maggie, appreciate you tuning in, Maggie, as always. Miss Leontine, appreciate you showing up, teaching in Korea. Great backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. All my guests have great backstories, Leontine. Yes. For sure. What do you feel like you said, I think that's a big thing for somebody to really experience another culture. What
Yeah,
do you
I
feel
highly
like?
suggest it.
Yeah, what do you feel like you took away from your time in Korea?
So as like as a American who actually like is not arrogant, if you're not arrogant, I suggest that you go live in another country so you can learn different perspectives. If you're arrogant, then you just go over there. Like one of my other teachers, he was actually Korean American, and we went to like a little club. And he got mad at the DJ because he didn't speak English. Like, you in Korea, they don't gotta speak English. Like, and so I would highly suggest anybody to live in a foreign country, because visiting is totally different than living there, because you have to figure out, like I had to figure out, I never got my clothes dry cleaned because I didn't want to figure out how to have the conversation, because you could do the little first couple sentences, but then they start really talking to you like, I'm out. I don't know.
And you're
I don't
standing there
know.
like, what did you say? I just have my clothes here.
So what I took away was that there's like multiple ways to live that is correct. Because they just have a totally different culture. They like, I also learned like manners is a Western concept. Like, because when they would eat soup or something, like sometimes slurping shows in the East, it shows that you would like the
You
dish.
appreciate the food, yeah.
And so when I was over there, after a while, I was just like,
Just drink it from the bowl.
when in Rome. But I was like, when I go back to America, I gotta learn how to eat my mouth closed again.
Oh man, that's too funny. But no, I always, like I said, suggest. And we were just talking about this before
Hmm.
the show. I think it's such a great way of learning a language. Just immerse
Yeah.
yourself in the culture. You're forced to
Hmm.
learn the language and the culture there.
Another thing I learned was that I am afraid of the American dark. I am not afraid of the South Korean dark. So, like, to clarify
Interesting.
that,
Yeah, please,
when
please
I
do.
would, so when I would, because sometimes, okay, so particularly when I worked for the animation company, I would work like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And so you're getting home very late. You have to walk from either the bus stop or the subway station. And when I would walk home at night, I wouldn't feel unsafe. And so, I feel like South Korea was like really safe. Like I remember I went to a Burger King and I left something at the booth, and I came back 10, 15 minutes later and it was still there. And so, like when I came back to America, I remember I was going to a wedding and I had to find a dress, and I told my stepmom, because I was like, okay, I'm used to being in Korea where I might leave my stuff somewhere, so be on the lookout. And I actually did. Like I went to the dressing room and left my purse on the chair or something. So because I told her that, she like grabbed it or whatever. But I was like, I'm so used to being able to leave my stuff somewhere and nobody not take it.
Yeah,
And so that's
that's
why I say I'm afraid of the American dark, because I would be going through these like, because to get to from the subway to your apartment, it might be a little walk, and you might be going through alleys or something like that. But I never felt unsafe.
that's interesting. Interesting. I guess. Well, I don't know. Like I said, maybe it's the culture. Obviously, culture over
Yeah,
here is.
because they don't really have guns. Like the only time I saw a gun, like even when I went on, because the largest population of Black people in Korea, or like foreigners, but I hung out with but foreigners is like military, and then English teachers, and then a distant third is like engineers. And so I would always, because I'm in a sorority, I would be going on the base to
Mm,
meet up with my sorority um, sisters and fraternity brothers. And so even when I would go on base, like the Koreans wouldn't have guns. The most I saw, like if you go into the bank, there's like one person that got a little pea shooter on his hip. But
yeah.
other than that, you don't really see guns.
It's definitely a thing over here in the West, and
Yes.
and it's funny. I have a friend that I connected with. He's from Australia, and
Hmm.
we hit it off, and great guy. But we were talking about it, and he was saying, I just don't understand you guys' fascination with guns and stuff, because they have a mandate. Like I said, they had outlawed, or just everyday people having guns. I guess
Hmm.
they had like one mass shooting, and then they
Hmm.
mandated that people didn't have guns. I said, yeah, that's just, you're
That's
not gonna.
that's an interesting thing about foreign countries. They be like having problems and then they fix it. It's like
Yeah, yeah, they're not. It's like, and I
what?
told him, I said, yeah, you're not gonna get that over here. You'd see a revolt if they mandated any type of gun law like that over here.
You can't even get like little restriction because they're like, oh, they're gonna take our guns away. I'm like, y'all are fighting against us putting like mandates on
Yeah,
like
yeah. I was like,
like mental illness or something like or like a mental screening. So how are we gonna take the guns away if
yeah.
y'all won't even let us do
And I can tell you, Texas will be, if they did try to do that, Texas would be the last holdout. You know,
mm-hmm.
Texas is not giving up their guns, their right to carry guns for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just a totally, and that's why I say people, you'll get a much better perspective if you go outside the country
Mm-hmm.
of just how people see the West, how you see
Yeah.
over there. It's just something that I think everybody really should do at least once in their life. Spend a little time outside of the country.
And like
Like
we
the,
were talking about beforehand, the transportation system in the entire country is immaculate. Like I could when I lived in Gwangju, I could be at work on Friday and be like, I want to go to Seoul.
mm,
I would leave my job. I would maybe go pack a little bag and go to the bus station and be on a bus to Seoul in 15 minutes.
wow, well, you know, yeah, that's the good thing about some countries. Like I said, and they say it's kind of the same thing about Europe. It's really close, and you can get
Mm-hmm.
around really
Yeah.
well to different places and stuff. For sure. Um, as far as animation, I mean, you were doing a lot. Obviously, you were working on a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's shown over here, a Western style animation. You know,
Yeah.
Cleveland Show. You know, Scooby Doo, Family Guy. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
different style of how they work from how you're doing stuff over here, or you
Mm-hmm.
seeing stuff done over here?
Yeah. So when I was over there, I did have the concept that like all the like creative stuff is done in Los Angeles and then it's shipped out for the grunt work to be done in foreign countries. And so it's really cool at the company I am now to see that the pre-production part because I'm connecting the pieces and because
Mm,
we're going to be shipping something out to a foreign animation company. So it's like cool to see what I've been talking about for years. So in Korea, there are like a lot of American companies will outsource their animation to like Korea, Singapore, um, Mexico, India, and all that stuff. So uh, I was we were working on various TV shows, and I looked up because apparently just that your run of the mill typical animation studio in Korea has a very hard time paying you. So I looked up and going to an animation studio that worked with Western animation companies, so that paycheck was on time every time. And I actually help a guy. He's half Korean, half Puerto Rican. He's from Virginia. I helped him get a job at my animation company because like my fraternity brother was friends with him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he's having trouble." And so I was like, "Hey, send me your portfolio. I can get you in the animation department, the 3D animation department, or whatever." And I helped him get a job because the animation company, his mom was like, "Well, if they ain't paying, you need to come home." So I'll hook you up.
Oh man, well, like I said, that's another shocking thing. I guess if they're not getting unless they're working with Western companies.
Yeah.
It's really hard
Because
to
sometimes in different countries you get your money from the government, and so it's only so much to go around. But at the animation company, worked 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. The second year, I was in Korea for 2 years. First year was teaching English. Second year was working for an animation company. I wanted to do 2 years working for an animation company, but I'm an introvert. I play extrovert on TV. I don't like people staring at me.
do you guys really believe that she's an introvert?
I done worked on it. I done worked on it. But I don't like people staring at me, and I got plenty of reason for people to stare at me in Korea. And so I'm black, I'm tall.
Oh man,
I had a big afro then, and
holy
so like
Angela
when I would
Davis
wear
style.
when I wear my hair in twists, it would be like less looks. But when I wear my hair in an afro, they would like point and laugh, and I'm like, bro, nothing funny. Like this is my hair. So
Oh
I ain't
man.
like being stared at. So I was like, I can only do 1 year.
Well,
I'm
I mean, to
stupid.
that point, did you feel any kind of? I mean, because obviously, the racial feel over
Mhm.
here is just totally different.
Mhm.
I mean, how did it differ for you? coming from here, going over there, just the racial
Yeah. Like
feeling.
people, extroverts, actual extroverts would be like, oh, just pretend you're on a runway. Like, I don't want the attention though. So I can't pretend I'm on a runway because I would never be on a runway. Like, and so, and then Korean culture, like, because I'm very observant. My dad always taught me to be observant, be observant. It's a gift and a curse. And
No.
so what I observed is like, even the people that work, the Koreans that work with you every day, they're still they're very, their culture is very interesting. They don't they can work with me every day and they'll still go out with their spouse and be like, oh, a black person, like, but you work with Deborah every day. But American, I always explain it like American culture is like aliens can come down today. After 2 weeks, we were like, okay, it's an alien. Like, get over it. Like, we're so like, okay.
Yeah.
But they are like, I remember when I worked for the animation company, my director, he was like 40 at the time, and it was like the first snow, and he's like, Deborah, look, it's snow, and I'm like, it snows in Korea, like, like it snows where I'm from, like this is not
You
an
ever been to
anomaly. Like,
Detroit? You been to Detroit?
I'm like, because you remember when the Olympics was in the Winter Olympics was in
So
Korea, they was
yeah.
like, don't play with the cold in Korea because it goes to the bone. Don't play. It
Oh
get
man.
cold in Korea, so wear your gloves. They was warning people for the Winter Olympics, and so I remember that first winter it hit. I was like, ooh. I went to the store. I got me little fake UGG boots. I got me a scarf. I got gloves.
Oh man. So you were under the impression that it didn't get cold, or you just weren't
I just
sure
didn't know how
how
cold it
cold
got.
it
It just
got?
was like 0 to 100 really quick.
Wow. Well, like I said.
I didn't know anything about Korea before I moved there, so it was just like, okay, this
Oh
cold is
man.
serious.
Everybody, like I said, we are having a fun conversation. Jump on in. Definitely want you to be a part of it as well. Sitting down, having a great conversation with my friend Deborah here. Um, so coming back, um, what was your kind of intention, you know, or your plan
Hmm.
when you wanted to come back?
So, essentially, like I just was missing home. Like, when I was in Korea, I'd never visited home. Like when I had the money, I didn't have the time. When I had the time, I didn't have the money. So, um, I came back to the States. New Orleans is where I moved after I graduated from college. So I went back to New Orleans. I also had a boyfriend at the time, so I had, like, I had to go back. And so,
When you coming back?
right. And so, yeah, I remember I had like Korea was like, oh, I had like my little adulthood going on, so I had a savings account, so I was able to like work on my portfolio. After I came back in August, and I got the job at TurboSquid in November, so I was able to sustain myself with my savings account, and like worked on my demo reel. That's the demo reel that you plan on showing is the
Yeah,
demo
yeah.
reel that I created, and so I just was trying to, like, when I moved to New Orleans. I remember, like, I'm from Detroit. I went to school in Rochester. I don't need help being cold, so I'm gonna go south. I People
So
are like,
yeah.
"Well, why'd you move to New Orleans? The sun."
Yeah. Why do you think I'm
Like,
down here? Why do you think I'm still down here in Texas? I can't do the winters like I can before.
and
No.
when I lived with my mom, we lived in New Orleans. I lived in New Orleans middle of fourth grade to the end of sixth grade. So it was kind of like I was coming back after college. So I was just trying to make it work in New Orleans, and so I worked at TurboSquid for a time and stuff like that. So, and then I worked for the state of Louisiana.
So what'd you do with TurboSquid? Because for anybody that doesn't know what TurboSquid is, they do 3D models and things like that. So
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know that TurboSquid was founded in New Orleans.
nah, I didn't know.
Yeah, a lot of people, even in people in New Orleans, don't know. They're like, "Oh, is it from somewhere else?" Like, nope. Matt Wisdom created it. Him and his brother Andy, like, they created it in New
Ah,
Orleans.
I learn something new every day. I tell you, I didn't know they were in New Orleans. TurboSquid,
Yeah,
and that's big. TurboSquid's big.
yeah. So for people who don't know, TurboSquid is like the the entire time I worked there, it was hard to explain what I did because TurboSquid is like, I don't know how to describe TurboSquid, and I can't use industry terms. And then I remember my father, like, like a year and a half into me working there, he described it perfectly what I did. I'm like, how do you do that? You are just a genius. Like, I like work here every day, and I couldn't say that. But it's like an animation eBay. So artists
Yeah,
from
yeah.
around the world upload their 3D models to TurboSquid. They house it, and then they take a percentage. And
Animation
so,
eBay. Yeah, that is good.
yeah,
You did
yeah.
good, yo.
So,
You did good, Dad. You simplified it to the T, for
so
sure.
basically, if you're maybe a student and don't have the time or the skill set to make a 3D model, you could like get the free models or purchase it. Or there's some companies, some are willing to say that they use TurboSquid, some are not willing to say that they use TurboSquid, and
Yeah,
so they'll like download the models. So it's kind of like, CNN uses TurboSquid,
yeah.
and so what I did was I worked on what's called the Checkmate program. So like anybody could upload a model to this TurboSquid, but they had like a little certification program because they had a Checkmate advisory board, which was like CNN, IKEA, um, Blur. They're like, if you download a model from TurboSquid, what do you need? The basics. So Checkmate Lite was like it opens up and it doesn't have any errors.
Mm,
And then Checkmate Pro was it doesn't have all these terms that people won't probably know, but like overlapping faces,
yeah,
like overlapping vertices, all that stuff. Like it's like the Pro is just much better. And so because you can download a model from TurboSquid and it just not work. So if you at least get a Checkmate Lite one, it so I was I was an inspector for the Checkmate program. So I would like open up your people would like send their models to get inspected so they could get the badge. I would look at it, see if it could open up in a certain program, see if their images were right, if their description was right, and then if they did everything right, then boom, you got a badge. Or Checkmate Pro, boom, you got a badge. So and
yeah,
then I eventually became the manager of that team
yeah.
and
Yeah, I
did
know a
that.
lot of people use, a lot of people in studios use, on projects, like I said, where they got to save some time,
Yeah,
and depending on, like I said, which model you get, you may have to
yeah.
do more work on the cheaper ones, like
And
I
some
said.
people
So,
who use TurboSquid all the time still don't possibly know about the checkmate. So if you see a gray badge with a check mark, that's gonna open up and work. And if you see the blue badge with the check mark, then that's gonna be better.
so just so you know, everybody, just so you know, Simply Robotics.
Hey
Hey,
Monique.
appreciate you checking in and tuning in. We are having an amazing conversation. Um, like you said, you got a. We're going to talk a little bit about your show, Black Woman
Mm-hmm.
Animator.
Mm-hmm.
But before we kind of dive into that, what's for you? How's it been being a black woman in animation? I mean,
Um, because I started my career in the South, it has been very interesting. I'm hoping I've heard that I won't have the same experiences in California, so fingers crossed. But on my YouTube channel, I have like a couple videos. I actually did. I sat down for like an hour and a half and said everything, like whether it was racially or because of my gender or because of my youth. Because I look anywhere from 10 to 15 years younger than I actually am. So I deal with a lot of ageism as well from people who are my age or older because they think I am 21 and they haven't accomplished anything. So ageism
would
is.
it be rude to ask you how old you are?
I
Some
am
women don't like.
35.
Yeah, some women don't like it.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
35, so I
Okay.
look like when I was in my
Yeah.
20s, I was like, okay, I look 16 apparently, but
Yeah.
then in my 30s, I'm like, oh, people think I'm 21 now.
Yeah. You look
I can
much
drink,
younger. Yeah. 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 She's
and so
legal, y'all. She's legal.
right. So I like my on my 30th birthday, my only goal was like keep the same face to the 40. So I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
Luckily I didn't keep the same hair. I got a lot of gray hairs, but
Not as many as mine, I tell you. But hey.
well, it's more than you can see. Like people be like, "Oh, you do have a lot of gray hair." Like when I put product in it, it kind of disappears. But and I got like a whole patch right here. But anyway, that's from being part of Urban League and being president.
Oh man.
They gave me gray hair. But
Oh Lord. Too
But yeah,
funny.
like I have like videos, like I sat down for like an hour and a half and just outlined everything. Like I remember one I won't be specific, but a previous company that I worked for, and she went in the nicest way. Like she wasn't even trying to be. That's why like white liberals can still be racist. But she was trying to help me get a job, like a teaching job at Delgado Community College in New Orleans. And she was trying to hook me up with this person, and she's like, "Yeah, tell her that I sent you. Otherwise, she'll think you're some unknown pissant kid with nappy hair." And then
Wow.
she added, well, that was until recently. And my best guess was like I used to have a big afro and then I cut my hair. And so I guess my big afro was nappy. I don't know. I never went out the house looking like my dad always taught me don't go out the house looking like an unmade bed. So I
Yeah.
never it was always perfectly coiffed. Like I never looked out like crazy. So I don't so that's the
Yeah.
thing about like people's image of hair. Like even if it looks perfectly round, it's
It's
still
nappy.
nappy to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So
Because their hair is straight. So for them,
yeah,
it's nappy. So,
yeah. So
I always find it interesting the comments. They don't know that they're saying. They don't think they
yeah.
know that they're saying anything that's
So
racist or
at that
bad,
time,
but they.
I'm a 20-something-year-old person, and I have to go sit down with a 40-year-old and explain to her why what you just said to me was not appropriate. And then
Yeah.
you said it to me because somebody else would have smacked you. Like, I mean, I said it diplomatically, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
essentially what I said. Like I said it with tact and not those words, but
Listen, we need to step outside. I could have did Detroit style on you.
and then you don't realize how many people have, like if you're familiar with the black codes, like those rules that you had when you were either in slavery or when we were free from slavery. But one of the codes was like no more than two or three black people can congregate. And so with me, again, gift and a curse, my dad always told me to be observant. Me observing like some previous places I worked in the South, where when it's three of us talking in the hallway, without fail, like, and it was different white coworkers. They'd be like, "Oh, what are y'all talking about?" Or "Y'all look mischievous." Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
but if it was like, I remember one time it was me, a black man, and a white dude, and one of the people who always made a comment, she didn't say nothing. So I was like, okay, when there's a white person, it don't look like we having a meeting to like uprise or something.
Yeah, yeah. You got a chaperone. So
Right. So it
no,
just like I feel like they, even if they are from the South and maybe don't want to think like that way, maybe their parents were always making a comment if they saw, and so they kind of got it ingrained in
rain.
them, even
Yeah,
though they're not like that. And
yeah.
so it would just be annoying that every time like somebody would have to say, "Oh, what are y'all doing?" Yeah, and
Yeah.
I remember when I worked at a previous place, there was a particular day where every like all the black people who were at work like converged on one spot accidentally, like because I was talking to Miss Judy, and I was like, oh, I forgot to tell Miss Judy. So Miss Judy was trying to go get Yashika, and Cedric was coming, and then Erica, and we all converged on the same spot at the same time, and we was like, oh shoot, we gotta go. Like they
Oh
gonna think we
man.
having a
It's some
meeting.
type of meeting, out rally meeting coming up. So
We quickly dispersed.
too funny. No, but it is like I said, if you're observant, like what you're
Yeah.
saying, it's because I can go into a convenience store and if three like blacks just come in at the same time,
Hmm.
the clerk might not say anything, but he's
Right.
watching them and
Yeah.
kind of got that eye on them. So it's just a ingrained thing in most for some
And through
reason.
interviewing people for my YouTube channel, I feel like some people, when they come to California, because they're from the South or something, because it's not as bad, then they like, oh, it's better, so it doesn't exist. And this would be like, nah, yeah, yeah, probably choose not
You
to see
just get a different kind.
it.
You get the
Yeah,
western kind, not the
yeah.
southern kind. It's just different in different areas. That's all.
Hmm.
Um, how is but now with just the change that's starting to come up in the industry. Like I said,
Yeah,
I always like to say it's unfortunate, because of the unrest that we're starting to
yeah.
see a lot more. But how are you seeing it now with the advent of like I said, more diverse creators. We were
Mhm.
just talking about this earlier. A lot of your people on your team and in your
Mhm.
production you're working on are, of African American descent and
Yeah.
diverse cultures. So how are you starting to see it play out in the industry now?
Yeah. I feel like after like George Floyd, because Brianna Williams from Black and Animated, I remember she tweeted like hire more Black animators, and that kind of started like a whole thing on Twitter. That's when I got back on Twitter because I was like, Twitter is too much. But that's when I got back on Twitter. I was actually trying to get a job from White Guild. Like, I was like, please hire me. Like I can do the job, but just if you feel guilty, because
Oh man.
because I was in LA, I still didn't have the job at that point.
Oh
So
man. And see,
uh
and I had mixed feelings. Like I said, you know, after George Floyd's murder and then
mhm,
all the protests and everything,
yeah.
and you started seeing all these companies posting a black square on Twitter or we're behind Black
Yeah, the
Lives
only people I
Matter
believe
and
was Sesame Street because they ride or die. I was like Sesame Street telling the truth because they not know that they true to this. But all y'all
yeah.
other people, y'all lying.
And I was like, my thing is, I was like, okay, you know, on the one hand, I was kind of glad that they were starting
hmm
to, but then on the other hand, it was like felt like a PR stunt,
Yeah,
for
the behind
me.
the scenes of it was like a lot of people. I know Belle Hayford. They like created a list of like for Drawn While Black. Uh, they said that people would reach out to people and then go ghost. So there was a lot of facade stuff, but there is some actual movement, and there's more people getting opportunities. Like the people who've been in the industry for a while, they're getting opportunities at Netflix and stuff like that. Well, Netflix is doing their thing right now. That is
Yeah,
like
Netflix is.
interesting, but
Yeah,
but before that, and like Disney Plus, with the Kugali, like Watcher
Kigali.
thing,
Yeah,
and they're
Kigali.
coming out with the like Zootopia 2 and Tiana and stuff like that. So there has been movement. I'm working on a production. I'm under NDA, so I can't talk about it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just to let people know out there, but I would love to be able to talk about it. But
We'll
our
have her back
showrunner,
on, everybody, when
yeah,
it's released and she can
our
talk more
showrunner is a
about it.
black woman. Our supervising director is a black man. Our voiceover director is a black woman, and I remember within the first week of me starting on the production, our supervisor was like adamant, like our showrunner said, this is a black production. This is she's put it out there, and I was like, that was very comforting for like to re-break into the industry
Yeah,
and
yeah,
have
yeah,
and be on a black production and have a black woman say like not be afraid to say the word black. She
yeah,
like even when we're doing design, she's just like protecting black men. Like I don't
yeah,
know
yeah,
about that design, but then our supervising director, who's a black man who's been in the animation industry, like, okay, this is animation, so let me posit this. So it's like a good back and forth of like advocacy for
yeah,
our
yeah.
people.
No, I think there is, and I've had this conversation before myself with some people. I think there's been a lot of progress on the kind of production side of it.
hmm
I want to see more on the you know,
Yeah,
executive level. That's where I want to see more change and more work put in on the exec. Because obviously there are a lot of productions that are hiring animators,
hmm
storyboard artists, people on the kind of mid to lower levels. But we both know that really decisions are made kind of at the higher level, and more clout is at the higher level. So that's where I want
yeah,
to see a lot more people of color, not just black, but
yeah.
Asians, Latinos,
hmm
everybody of color on executive levels.
And
And
I wanted to say something that I learned at TurboSquid was, and I'm kind of saying this to like black or people of color animation professionals that get invited to rooms, but also this is applicable to any room that you get invited to, no matter who you are. But I remember when I was a manager at TurboSquid, like we would have people in the checkmate program, like or who were QA, they would get invited to the meeting because you're doing this every day, but then they wouldn't speak up, and so you're getting invited to the meeting for a reason. And so sometimes the people higher up will like give a suggestion, and they think because it's coming from higher up that that's we have to go there with that suggestion. But you are invited to the meeting because you do that every day. So you can be like, oh well, I don't think that will work. And so people are so afraid, no matter what they look like, to speak up. But if you got invited to the meeting, you got invited to the meeting for a reason. So to kind of transfer that to people of color, if you see something, say something. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
because there's this term unconscious bias, so they're not always doing it on purpose, but if nobody says anything,
They
then they
don't
won't
know.
know to
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah.
And so like I was telling you, like on my production, I've kind of been like the showrunner and supervising director depend on me for like cultural competency. So because some of our designers, our character designers, prop designers, background designers are like white or Asian, and they don't know about Black culture, they'll ask me, okay, look up pictures of this, look up pictures of that. Or if I'm in a meeting myself and I'm like, I don't know if these people know that this is based on real people, I'll take the initiative and like, okay, this is a like the other day, we got a pan of macaroni and cheese, and I was like, okay, this is baked macaroni and cheese. Here's the here's the I was like, here's the reference image for the macaroni and cheese, and don't put breadcrumbs on it. I was like, don't put breadcrumbs on it. That's not Black. I ain't saying that. That's not Black for me, but
That's not Black.
I was like, don't put
Oh
breadcrumbs on
man.
it.
Yeah. But and to that point, because I had this conversation with another person, and she was of Asian descent.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think it would be different? And you're doing it for the show, but do you
Mm-hmm.
think it would be different if you were, say, like the only one? Because she was talking about, she was like the only Asian on the
Mm-hmm.
production, basically, and they would be looking at her like, "Is this right for And she was like, "I don't speak. I'm not. I'm not the speaker for all." So, do you think it works better when there's more because it's
Yeah.
like I said, you're not speaking. Like I said, you're not the spokesperson
Right.
for all
Because even
Black.
with the conversation I was talking about with the showrunner and the supervisor director, where she doesn't have as much experience in animation, and so she's thinking of like, oh, I don't want uh, the main person to be a caricature, but then the supervisor director who has like more than 20 years experience in animation, he's like, okay, well this I get what you're saying, but like we can do this because it's animation, it's whatever. So
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, to be the spokesperson for everybody, like I've had a journey through like getting more confident and speaking up, like whether it's in personal life or in the workspace. I still got a ways to go, but I feel like I am capable of like speaking up for myself or saying something. It doesn't always, because sometimes like particularly when people say like ignorant things, you have to pick your battles because people will be sensitive when you call them out, and it's like,
yeah.
and then now I'm not gonna be in the group chat, so
Well,
because y'all, because
and I
you,
think that's the case because, like I said, it's like people are too sensitive, and I think non-people of color get sensitive about it because they feel
hmm
like we're going to label them racist as opposed to
hmm
no, we're just explaining to you the true nature of what it is and what it
hmm
means and what you're saying. It's not that we're labeling you racist, which is why it seems like they tend to kind of maybe walk on the eggshells and not want to
and sometimes
talk
when people
about it.
label themselves as an ally, they think, oh, I'm good, I'm like, but no, y'all got some ways to go too.
It's a
Like
fine
I was on Facebook
line.
yesterday, and like somebody was trying to come to my aid because I was like calling some lady out for talking about African American vernacular English, also known as Ebonics, and
Yeah,
saying that it was like not proper English. And I'm like, well, I'm all advocate for AAVE. Like,
America. I
it's a
think we.
dialect. You don't need to know the history of why we were talking like that, so that the master wouldn't know what we were saying.
Yeah,
It's Black American culture is valid culture anyway.
but
So
see,
like this person yesterday was trying to come to my aid, and what she said, I was like, that was kind of. I appreciate the help, but that wasn't even right either.
And
Like,
the funny thing is, if you just really say it's like, okay, if you ask a British person, they would probably say what you're talking is slang because it's not
right.
proper English. So what is,
But the history of that is
yeah,
that there's people in a certain part of America who sound more like the British from back in the day than the British because they made up this dialect out of nowhere to just separate themselves from the poor people. Now everybody over there talk like that. That's not even
it's,
how y'all originally talked.
it's like, ah, geez, too funny. I mean, but I think without that conversation and, people, I think, and I say this a lot, which is why I feel like America is going to have a hard time getting over this gap because they're
Hmm.
afraid to have these uncomfortable conversations because,
Yeah.
like I said, most people tend to dance around the issue of race and this and that because
Hmm.
it feels like they're going to label them, racist or whatnot. And it's funny because you know, I was trying to get, I was trying to get, and I did. He's a great guest. He was a great guy. Jay Francis,
Hmm. Hmm.
diversity and inclusion with Disney,
Yeah.
and he had to go through the Disney chain. And
Yeah.
I was
Hmm.
thinking to
Hmm.
myself, well, damn, isn't that his position to come on
Right.
and talk about diversity and inclusion? I
Yeah.
mean, we're not gonna. You could dive into the history of Disney
Hmm.
if you want and dig into the history of who
Hmm.
Disney was as a person, who Disney. We all know that. We all know companies still have. They're doing great things. And I told him this. I said Disney is a behemoth, and I
Hmm.
liken Disney to like the Titanic. They're making changes, but they're a big ship, and it's going to take them a big turn to
Yeah.
make these kind of changes and things
Yeah.
like that because they're so used to doing things a different way. Not to say that they're not, because they are starting to, like I said, they're partnering
Hmm.
with Kugali over in Africa. They're starting to go and really step out of themselves.
Yeah.
But like every company, they still have a long way to go when it comes to really true, just
Yeah,
diversity and
because it
inclusion.
doesn't stop at like get hiring people. Like you have
Yeah,
to
it
create
doesn't
an
stop
environment
at
where we
that.
feel comfortable. And I
Um,
remember I did a video on my YouTube channel when I read the Women in Animation, and the Annenberg did the diversity study of like people in animation, and they had like some solutions. And I'm like, if you're starting at the company level, you're already too late. You need to go, if you want more people in animation, you need to go to middle school and high school before these people go to college to get them. Like if you're creating like diversity groups at work, or like, okay, let's go to HBCUs or something like that, that's too late. Like people they're finding solutions, and the solutions that ain't right.
yeah, yeah, they really do need to, like I said, expose these grade
Yeah.
schoolers to this
Because
industry.
that's how I got
That's
into animation
yeah,
exposure. Like even though I was watching, I had my these Disney VHS tapes. I still got the little collection right now. I got a bunch. I have a whole bookcase full of VHS tapes. I would draw from the VHS tapes. I had my Disney books. I actually bought these. These are not from my childhood, but these are the type of books that are from my childhood,
yeah,
where I would
yeah,
draw the covers all the time. And I was drawing that all the time, but I still didn't have the concept that animation was a job or a career. And so exposure, like you said, is the key. And that's why, like, you have your YouTube channel. That's why I have my YouTube channel, because young people need to see people that look like them.
yeah,
Otherwise, they don't know they can
yeah,
do it.
yeah. No,
You have to be a very strong personality to not see nobody and still do it.
really, you have to really love it because, like I said, and but I always find that thought interesting. I guess I was different growing
Hmm.
up. That a lot of the creators and friends that I've talked to, they're like, yeah, when I was young, I had no idea that this was a profession that people did and got paid from.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love comic strips. I wanted to be a cartoonist.
Hmm.
But I always knew the concept of, yeah, there's somebody drawing this and getting paid
Yeah.
for doing it. I always understood the concept that it was
Yeah.
a job. Even when I watched, Warner Brothers, I wasn't really big in. Although I watched Disney, I was more a Warner Brothers
Hmm.
type of person. But I understood the concept of that there were creative people sitting behind these
Yeah.
desks creating this and making a living doing this. So I always find it interesting, that most creators are like, oh, I had no idea that this was something that you could make a living doing.
Hmm.
But I think it's gonna, like, to your point, it is gonna take studios, creators, uh, animators, modelers, people, creatives like us going into the grade schools to really expose them,
Yeah.
especially the schools that just don't have the access, and really
And
getting them the access.
part of that is actually why I created my YouTube channel, because living in New Orleans, and I was, doing all the like workshops and presentations, but again, being observant, people from Louisiana, or I know about New Orleans. People from New Orleans, they either don't leave or they leave and come back. So I'm building all these people to be interested in animation, and they're most likely not going to leave New Orleans, and so they're going to go to school for animation and then not be able to get a job. So I kind of felt bad, and so I was like, let me just take it online so that I can expose a lot of people to it. Because I didn't, I just felt like I was going to build a, like, if I try to train all these people to do animation and then there's no jobs for them to take, New Orleans don't need help in not
Yeah,
having jobs.
yeah, yeah,
So that's kind of why I started my YouTube channel, because I kind of felt bad for like trying to build a workforce that didn't have infrastructure.
yeah. No, like I said, for me, and I tell people this, the main reason I did it was, like I said, I wanted to be a comic strip artist, but I definitely didn't see any comic
Hmm.
strip characters, or, even though I knew there were probably some out there, those weren't the ones I saw. But I think goes to the point now. What I'm really encouraged more about is, and Leontine, that's what I love about your program, that she works with a youth entrepreneurship, is
Hmm.
really getting creatives now in the mindset of controlling their own IP and property,
Yeah,
and really,
it's so surprising that young people like still have the old school mentality of like, I'm gonna go pitch something. Like, y'all ain't see Issa Rae, create it yourself.
create it yourself.
Like,
And we
there's
have all
YouTube.
these, yeah, we have all these channels now. That's what I love about this. And trust me, the gray hairs will prove it. I come from a time where, before the internet,
Yeah.
so it was really hard to get information out there, really hard to receive information. So,
Hmm.
but I am a techie person, and I love
Hmm.
technology and where it's going. Well, that's why I love this time, because we live in a time now where you don't have any barriers to getting your content out there. You don't necessarily have to run to Disney. You don't
Hmm.
necessarily have to run to Netflix. I mean, they're great if that's the avenue you want to take, but
Hmm.
you have the access of YouTube now. You have the access of Instagram. You have the access of all these channels to build your own following
Yeah.
and empire, if you
Yeah.
so choose
And
to
to be
do.
honest, that's the culture of things now. To like the Issa Rae, where she had the awkward black girl on YouTube, you're more likely going to get a deal if you already got something.
Yeah,
Ain't
yeah,
nobody hiring you for no idea
yeah.
if you don't got no other skill set. I'm just
No,
saying.
no. It has to be a really good idea, and if that's the case, they're gonna own a
They could
big
just take
chunk.
it from you.
Yeah, they're gonna own a big chunk of it for
Got to
sure.
publish a book so you got the
Uh,
IP.
and see, that's why I have I'm not a huge fan of all his content, but I can appreciate what Tyler Perry has built
Hmm.
and the journey that he's gone on, and how he's kept control of his content, and built this big empire, and people like Issa Rae and Oprah Winfrey and all the other ones. So I like the fact now that you're getting these young creators now that are starting to think a little more strategically about
Hmm.
controlling the work that they're doing.
Yeah, you mentioned Tyler Perry. A funny thing was like when the Will Smith thing happened, people was like, "Oh yeah, he could just go to Tyler Perry." I was like, "Y'all do know he has his own production company, right? Like he doesn't need Tyler Perry." Like
Yeah,
Peacock,
yeah, he
Bel
does.
Air was produced by Will Smith.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and a lot of them are doing that now. Like I said, I think that's see, and that's an interesting thing, because I've seen so many um, people, artists, creatives that kind of, they
Basketball players
started,
and
yeah,
production companies.
rappers. They're, like I said, Ice Cube is not like he was in NWA. You
Yeah.
know, he is not. Now he's doing family movies and stuff like that. Where
Yeah.
before he was talking about shooting police. So,
Right.
like I said, they made this transition. Jay-Z, all these people made this transition to where they realized, wow, we got something. How are we going to
Hmm.
control this and really make it a mega billion-dollar industry that, business that we can control? So they
Yeah.
made this shift of starting where they were and making these production companies. So they see
Yeah.
the value of, okay, I got to think business wise now and kind
Right.
of let the childish things kind of go away and put them to the
Gotta grow up.
side, you know. So that's what I love about this time, because it's really leveled the playing field of
Hmm.
getting as a content creator, getting your stuff out there.
Man, I look forward to when there's a time like I remember when to go back to like East Ray, like when Awkward Black Girl was out, Young Black and Sexy TV had all that stuff, and there was just so many that time in like the early 2010s when all that stuff was happening, like all the YouTube stuff. I can't wait for that to happen with like animation,
Yeah,
where you could
yeah,
just go and be like, "Oh, I love it." I know like Swoozy on YouTube has his own stuff, and there's people out there, but I look forward to when and what I learned through watching all those YouTube people was that if your story's good, people like the rest could be so so. Like you could have bad quality, you could have bad cameras, not the best camera equipment, you could have not the best like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
acting, but if that story is good, then you're good. So I feel like people need to take that into animation. Like even if your style is not as polished, if you have a good story,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you can build an audience.
yeah, yeah. And 9 times out of 10, companies like Disney and Netflix will come knocking at your door
Hmm.
when you build enough, have enough following for sure.
Yeah.
What are some of the stuff that's coming out that you've kind of liked and seen as like, I kind of like this animation and things that you enjoy
Um,
watching now?
I feel like, of course, Into the Spider Verse was like a huge thing because I feel like it hit on so many levels where for so long the animation industry was just like making stuff look pretty
Mm,
but not concentrating on the story, or they were taking advantage of nostalgia of millennials and just kept making remakes, which Into the Spider Verse is kind of in remake territory, but not really. But I like that they because being a 3D artist, I feel like companies were doing 3D wrong, and that was making audiences not like it. And so people will be like, "Oh, I wish 2D would come back," or there's always this like, "Oh, I like 3D, but 2D." Like, can't stop. Keep 3D out your mouth.
So what do you
Keep
feel
3D in
like they were
there.
doing? What do you feel like they were doing wrong with 3D? That
Like ugly characters, just or creating the same kind of stuff. Um, they just weren't doing the quality. So when Into the Spider Verse came out, I'm sure there's stuff before, like Peanuts, like taking chances with 3D. Like Peanuts was like, okay, let's take the comic strip idea and just do it in 3D. So that's what's cool about Peanuts.
Yeah, it
Into the
worked
Yeah.
stylistically wise. That was good. Like I said, and it's funny because I was thinking the same thing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've read the comic strip or Bloom County.
Mhm. No.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard it. Yeah, it's funny as hell. You ought to read it. Yeah, it really is. Berkeley Breathed did it for a
Mhm.
long time,
Mhm.
um, but they did like a kind of a
Mhm.
Christmas 2D version of it, and I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, that just doesn't mesh with the comic strip. So it's
Yeah.
like, but now he's talking about doing it, and I was like, well, unless it's done right,
Yeah.
some things just don't translate over to 3D or 2D unless it's
Right.
just it fits. And like you said, when they did Peanuts, it fit with like
Yeah.
Charles Schultz style, so that's why it worked really well.
And so like with Into the Spider-Verse, I feel like it hit with innovation, diversity, uh, story, like
Yeah.
that was key story. But with the diversity, it was like that opening scene where he's singing a song but don't know the words. It's like it's diversity, and it's for us even if it's not very obviously for us, like, oh, we do that.
Yeah.
Or when he went down the street going to school and he code switched, like he dapped somebody up or spoke Spanish or whatever, like
Yeah.
that's cool for like people who are Afro Latino or like mixed or something like that, to see that code switch of like that's how people in New York City are. And then Klaus, even though that's 2D, I feel like that was a big it's like an origin story for Santa Claus.
Yeah. Yeah. Close.
But that was a big one for 2D because as a 3D person, like I was looking before it came out, I was looking at all the YouTube videos where they would do like storyboard, cleanup, and then it would be like texturing lighting, and I'm like, texturing lighting are 3D terms. Like, is this 3D? And it was so confusing.
Well,
And I was like, it looked 3D, but it was 2D. So they created like a program to create that texture that you get in 3D and the lighting that you get in 3D, but it
yeah.
was 2D. And
Yeah.
so when they would have those videos where they do the process, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah.
confused. They're using 3D terms, but this is supposed to be 2D.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is crossing on because Arcane was kind of the
Yeah, I
same
was gonna
way.
mention Arcane next. Yeah.
Arcane, yeah, such a great stylistic and story. Like you said, I think
Hmm.
story is key. But then
Yeah.
when they layer on just this different style, it just
Hmm.
adds to it.
So I'm looking forward to like was it Arcane? Like Arcane. What was the other one I was thinking of? Like them just pushing. Just like Love, Death, and Robots. Like
Yeah, Love,
I'm an
Death, and Robot.
advocate
Yeah,
for animation is not just for kids.
yeah,
Because it
yeah,
was the history of it. It was originally for adults. They would
yeah,
play it before the movies at the movie theater, and so that's why when you look back at all the old Looney Tunes stuff, you're like, this isn't for kids, like because it wasn't. It was for
yeah.
adults.
When I look back now, I said that was pretty racist, man. It was like, gee whiz, pretty racy. I was like, okay.
Yeah. So I'm an advocate for like this, like even there's a lot of primetime animation, but some of it is a lot of the same. But I'm liking the like Invincible stuff that's like, okay, this is just because it's a cartoon don't mean it's for your child.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. No, I get it. I definitely love definitely. There actually three is supposed to be coming out pretty soon, so
hmm.
super excited about that, and just love the different takes that different creators have on it and showing
Yeah.
it in different ways.
Oh, and
So
then there's a House on Netflix, which is stop motion, and that's different styles
yeah,
of I don't. That's not necessarily for kids either, but I suggest people watch that too.
yeah,
It's like three different. Like if you get bored with the first one, it's gonna change. So it's like three different stories, and they're all centered around a house that the people live in. So.
yeah, yeah. And that was the thing about. And I've had this conversation. Actually, I had this conversation with James Mosley,
Mhm.
because he works on a lot of kid stuff. And
Mhm.
I was saying, man, if I had a studio or something like that, it'd be really hard because I'm a lover of all animation, whether it's
Yeah.
from the simple kid stuff to the more cerebral adult
Yeah.
stuff that's out there. So, I mean, I know some people find it better or
Mhm.
easier to work in their genre and style that they love working, but like I said, when you like all animation, it's really hard kind of creating a simple story along that.
Yeah, I think because I don't watch anime, but like a lot of people watch anime,
I
and
love
so
anime.
I
Yeah.
think the transition is that anime would cater to that teenage demographic where American animation back in the day like concentrated on young people. So once you became a teenager, you ain't have nothing to watch anymore. So that's why a lot of people went to anime.
I love anime, and like I said, depending on like what kind you watch, like I said, there's they got their kind of young
Hmm.
you know kid style anime, but a lot of it is really like I don't know if you've seen Akira. It took me a couple of times watching that to really sink
Hmm.
in just the nuances and the
Yeah.
story of and the meaning of it.
Mhm.
So some of it could be pretty cerebral, and like you said, you get those. I like those animations that, like I said, on an adult level, kind of make you think. You know.
Yeah, so what I had decided as I was speaking in schools and like kids would always mention anime and I'm like, man, I do not watch this. And so what I decided to do was learn about the animation like from an animation professional's perspective. So learn about like how is anime different from Western animation, like the frame rate, the all the stuff. So like I've decided to learn about the behind the scenes stuff so that even if I can't answer that question, be like, what's your favorite anime? Like, I don't know. But
But
did you know that
we can
this
talk
about
about
anime?
the technical side of it.
So I can still keep them interested, even though I do not want to watch it.
Like I said, I love it, but I also love, like I said, the silly young
Yeah,
style anime. You know, I just if it's a good story,
yeah,
you know, that really is what really hooks you in. And like I said,
hmm
the style and the way it's done is just an added layer onto it
right.
as well. Coming out, where do you kind of see, you know, like you said, there's a lot of, you know, 2D, 3Ds melding, things like
hmm
that. Where do you kind of see the industry going and the type of things really? Do you see more people kind of pushing the boundaries? I would really love to see a really good cerebral horror or thriller
hmm
animation, you know.
Yeah,
Like I said, I think, you know, in Jordan Peele kind of got me thinking, you know, when he did,
yeah.
you know, Get Out, I was like, man, something like that would really be cool in animation. You know, something
I
really
remember
cerebral like that.
there was this indie video game. I can't never remember the name of it, but it was like it was noir. It was like black and white. It's from years ago, and I remember at some point like a spider would come out and like eat you or something like that. And I felt like that was cool, a different take on like video games. But where I see the industry going, like they're using a lot of video game engines now, Unreal and Unity, and so that's good. There's this dude Peter Osborne or something like that, where he just posted on like they just posted on Cartoon Brew a nice and animated. I think it's a film that they're going to be coming out with. I don't remember the studio, but they're using a video game engine. But the story is like this boy, he finds cassette tapes, and every time he listens to a cassette tape, he's transferred into like the girl who made the mixtapes, like her
Oh
like
wow.
life or something like that. So that's cool. And then I think Blender is opening up a lot of stuff. They have like we have a Blender club at work, and one of my coworkers, he did like a little stop motion thing where, and then he did a tutorial where he was able to swap out the mouths and do like a little Popeye animation,
Yeah,
Popeye.
yeah.
And so I feel like Blender is going to open with that being open source and free. And I finally learned Blender because I like it was so counterintuitive before like
I'm just getting into it myself. Like I said,
that like what is it 2.8
two
update? It
point.
was like
Yeah, when
thank
they
you.
switched it
Oh
to
my gosh,
when they
because
switched to 2.8.
that that same woman that made that ignorant comment, she had like a Blender a class at Delgado, and she wanted me to do the labs because it conflicted with her schedule. And I'm queen of Google. I can figure out anything. And this man asked me a question and I could not figure out. She had to cancel the class because I couldn't do the lab. Because I'm like, why is this so hard? So it's been years. That was like 2013, 2015. So it's been years I've been trying to learn Blender because it's a low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Like it's already the access. Like if you at least have a laptop, then you can download this free program,
So,
and then and then we can have more people in animation. And so Blender is like all the stuff that they're adding to their program, like
oh
the
yeah,
geometry nodes and all that stuff. That's going to open up a lot of stuff.
yeah.
Like what is that called? Dre just mentioned it to me. It starts with a P. Some type of procedural
Procedural, yeah,
procedural like
procedural anime, yeah,
modeling
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
animation.
yeah. Yeah, everybody, and we're gonna, like I said, we're getting ready to check out Deborah's demo reel, and but after that, we're gonna dive a little more into, like I said, Blender and some of the programs and things
hmm
available. But for everybody just jumping in, like I said, say hey, comment and be engaged for sure. We are having a fun conversation, really good conversation with uh, my friend Deborah here. But we're going to take a quick look at some of her work before we proceed on. Technical difficulties. Hold on for a second here. We are back. Great work for sure. Obviously, you know, you did a lot of that stuff in Maya, right? Or what is it?
Actually, and the stuff that was from Korea, like from the TV shows that I worked on, was either Maya or Softimage XXI. Like
Ooh,
when
don't say
I
softimage.
I had never heard of Softimage when I went
Oh
there.
my
I was like, my
god.
director literally my first day at work, he like showed me like the little navigation and stuff, and he's like, okay, make something. So I looked up a jellyfish tutorial. I was like, okay, I made a jellyfish. And then he was like, okay, now put like snow on houses for Family Guy. And I'm like, it took me like so long. I knew 3D, but I just didn't know it was Softimage. So it took me so long to like put snow on houses for
Man,
like.
them was fighting words for me, man. 'Cause that was the first 3D software that I learned. It's funny because if you go back and watch James's episode, we were talking about this very thing, and I
Mm-hmm,
had him cracking up because uh, all the 3D I learned is self taught. I didn't go to school
mm-hmm,
for 3D, so it's learning through stuff. But I used to do graphic design work for
yeah.
a video system. They are a company that built video toaster systems, and they sold software or 3D
Mm-hmm,
software. The software they sold at initially was Softimage, so they would
mm-hmm.
let me come in and just sit on the computer and learn it and play it. And man, when he brought out these thick manuals, it must have had Softimage must have had like 7 or 8 thick. And like I told James, they were thick ass manuals. They were thick. They weren't no small man.
Right.
And I still got some of them on my shelf. That just completely turned, because I was excited. It's like, wow, this is what they did Jurassic Park with. I want to
Uh-huh.
learn this software. But man, it killed my passion for
I
3D.
had never heard of it before I worked at that animation company. I was like, what is Softimage? And
Oh
then
man.
Autodesk bought it and killed it.
Yeah, that's true. They did. They killed it. Sorry. And then mine just kind of went forward. Like I said, I'm not even into, like I said, I hadn't really sat down to try and learn Maya either. It's just those animation softwares that it just had information overload for me. Like 3D
I feel like
Studio more.
for your skill set, Cinema 4D would be the best one.
Yeah, even sitting for 4D, I was kind of hesitant. What did it for me, what really clicked for me was
Mm-hmm.
when they started selling Lightwave.
Mm-hmm.
Lightweight 3D, they started selling lightweight 3D, and that's what they were using like for Babylon 5 and all the sci-fi TV shows because it was a really easy and quick to get stuff done. And
Mm-hmm.
when I sat down for that, I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I've thought
Lightwave just
about
made
doing
it
like a
easy.
3D for graphic designers course because I bought some lady's 3D for graphic designers book because when I looked it up, I was like, oh, there's only one, and so I bought it so I could be like, what's the competition look like? And I was like, this is just a 3D book. Like, this is not like because I feel like you have to tailor it for graphic because graphic designers I don't feel like want to learn everything from the rooter to the tutor. So like I'm just like this is just a 3D book with 3D for graphic designers on it.
Well, Soft Image, like I said, it was and Maya's kind of the same way,
Hmm.
at least initially to me, but specifically Soft Image was really technical. It was a really
Maya, when you
technical,
open up Maya, it's very intimidating.
yeah, it's really technical thing. And Lightwave just had, even though it was a deep program, you could do
Hmm.
obviously as much or good stuff like you did with Softimage or Maya. They
Hmm.
only showed you the bare minimum things
Yeah.
that you were probably be working in, and the interface was not cluttered like 3D Studio Max was. You had all this stuff on there. It was just for me, it was like information overload. It's
Yeah, I became familiar with Lightwave when I worked at TurboSquid because we inspected in Lightwave for the Checkmate program. But I never got to use it because we only had like one license for it. So there
Yeah,
was
I
like a,
loved
a
Lightwave.
Lightwave expert on our team, so he used
Yeah,
it.
it was like I said, and they were touting it was made by artists for artists.
Hmm.
Where like I said, Softimage was really a programming type of. It
Yeah,
really
the
was
that
technical.
the old Blender, I was like, this you
Yeah,
can tell this is made by programmers. Like, why would you do this? Why would left click? Why would right click be the default click? Y'all just doing that to be different.
yeah. Well, even now, what gets me with Blender is why isn't up and down.
Yeah.
That's what kind
Hmm.
of trips me up
I
sometimes
think
with
that's the
Blender.
engineering. Like, there's the engineering way or where Z is up and down or something. I know there's a reason. Yeah.
Z is up and down. It's like that doesn't make sense to me because I'm so used
Yeah.
to Y being up and down. But
Hmm.
talking about Blender, I mean, and why I say I love this time now is
Hmm.
because you got so much software, free softwares, and even a lot of the big companies like Maya and things like that. They're making like free light versions or educational versions. They're really working hard to
Even
get.
ZBrush got a free little
Yeah,
light
I
version.
do. Free version, which I do. I hadn't dived into the full brush. It's Mini Core Z,
Yeah.
Mini Z. Yeah, but it's really powerful though. It really
Hmm.
is. And if you're into sculpting, in that you're just naturally gonna buy the full version, you
Yeah.
know. Um, but
But I would
what?
suggest for if you want to get into sculpting, if you have an iPad, Nomad Sculpt is very good. I
Yeah,
actually
I've
got the
heard that.
iPad to get Forger, but Nomad Sculpt is like really good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And like Procreate is really good for
Hmm.
drawing and stuff like that. But now you're starting to see a lot of, like I said, these really powerful softwares that are either open source or very
Yeah.
inexpensive or free to
Mm-hmm.
do. Um, Blender, like you said, is such a deep program for being free. Like I said, if you're
And the
really,
founder is true. Like he do not want nobody to pay for that. Like I
yeah,
watched a whole like hour long
yeah,
video.
yeah. I did
He is
too.
passionate about that being free.
I did too. He's an interesting guy. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen a video on him, he is a very interesting guy. But
Hmm.
to your point, I had Blender for a long time and didn't touch it because it was just the
Woo!
methodology was
Jesus.
just
Hmm.
too weird. So
But
when
it's
people,
much better now.
oh yeah,
All the way to like I taught it in a high school class, and I still never had really used it at that point, but I was able to like just at least research because I know 3D. That's what I tell students like or people who are trying to get into 3D. Just pick the program that you like because what I learned at TurboSquid through the I would go through the patriarchy. They would have me take notes at like because I'm a woman. Like they would have me take notes at the meeting, but I also take very good notes. So it's like whatever.
yeah, yeah.
But I would be sitting there, and one guy from one of the video game studios mentioned how uh, students, when they graduate from college, whatever program they learned in college, that's what they like. Oh, I am a 3ds Max artist, or like, no, you know 3D. All you have to learn for a new program is the navigation and how to do the same thing in a different program. So with students, you have to wrap your head around, okay, you're learning Maya, you're learning Blender, you're learning Cinema 4D, but know that you're learning 3D and you have transferable
Yeah, it's
skills.
just the principles. It's just the
Yes.
principles of 3D.
So you don't have
Yeah,
to be stuck in one program because
yeah.
okay, I learned Maya in college. I used Maya and Softimage at Digital Imation. I used Cinema 4D working for the state, and then they got Maya. So and now I know Blender. So I know a lot of programs.
Well, I mean, and to that point though, because a lot of uh, schools are teaching like Maya because it's industry standard. Do you think
Yeah.
that's not, like I said, now that Blender is really starting to gain traction, the user base is growing, it's
Mhm.
becoming more powerful, that a lot more studios or proprietary stuff that, like I said, studios have of their own.
Yeah.
Do you think that's starting to level out now? Because, like I said, you are starting to get a lot more different types of software that
Mhm.
are becoming popular that you can still do the work as long as you're able to translate, I guess, the
Yeah.
file over to whatever theirs is.
Yeah, there's some studios like independent studios that are testing out Blender as a production, program, and they're making some inroads with that. I feel like part of the reason that schools use Maya, like I actually do freelance activity writing for a company, and they sell a course with Blender, but I think the reason why some places use Maya is because controversial statement. I don't think 3D is made for the education, like traditional education, because through my working with like different schools, they want you to get a certification, but certification don't matter in 3D. Like if you do an IT, okay, certifications are the norm. But I remember in 2013, I took or 2012, 2013, I took the Maya certification because to work at Delgado, they wanted me to pass the certification. They wanted me to teach to the certification. The associate test was like, those tests where they try to trick you with the questions so you get the answer wrong. That's the whole associate test. Like you got to study for a 3D associate test, and then the pro test, because I'm great at troubleshooting and great at figuring things out. Some of the questions I actually did better. Like the advanced test was easier for me than the pro test was easier than the associate test for me because I could figure it out. Like I remember they asked a question about up vector Y or something. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I think I can find it. And so I was getting the questions right. I got like a high score, but you can pass those certifications and you still don't know 3D and you still can't get a job in the industry. So I don't like like I get it, but I don't like that staunch educational piece to like when high schoolers or middle schools try to implement 3D and they just get too cerebral about it, and it's like none of this is helping them
Yeah.
actually get a job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when you get professional, because like I said, everybody that I've talked to and every, you know, like I said, animator, texturer, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, storyboard artist, most of them will tell you they don't use their degree. It's really all about the portfolio, and that they're really mainly
Mm-hmm.
looking at, or whether you're good. They want to see your work. If you're
Yeah.
an animator, they want to see your demo reel. If you're a storyboard artist, they want to see your boards, and not necessarily that you can draw well, but that you can convey a story in a
Yeah.
sequential manner.
Mhm.
So I think, to that, your point, yeah, I do think a lot of people get hung up on, and there are a lot of great self taught, amazing
Mhm.
self taught people that haven't gone to school, but they just naturally pick it up and are naturally good at the craft.
Yes, something me and Jaren talk about. I know Jaren's always talking about this about how the kind of pivot to like not encouraging people to necessarily go to college for animation, but we have to give them the resources to okay, what can you do instead and still have them build the soft skills. But yeah, your demo reel, your portfolio is what is going to get you a job, not the degree. That's why I said earlier I graduated 10th of my class in high school, 3.6, but when I went to college, I graduated 2.7, and I did not have a nervous breakdown. I was just like, this is hard. So, like, people be getting 4.0s and be like, why am I not smart? Like, I was like, nah, this is the quarter system. Like, this
Oh
is hard
man.
to do this class in 10 weeks. I'm making every excuse to why I got a 2.7. And I knew, like, oh, my GPA ain't gonna matter until I was like applying to Northwood Grumman and they want you to have a 3.0 for a graphic design job.
Yeah.
Like, why do you gotta have a 3.0?
Yeah. Now, like I said, I think if you're going into a teaching type of thing, then okay, I
Mm-hmm.
can get
Yeah,
I can get a
you
diploma or a
like
certification is gonna.
for the teaching piece, like if you are a specialist, they can make some. Because I taught at Loyola University with only a bachelor's. Like after I got my bachelor's degree, I was like, all right, I love learning, but I don't like getting a degree for it. So my dad got a PhD.
Uh,
I'm like him a lot of the ways, but I ain't getting
or,
no PhD. I
or
ain't getting no
going into
master's unless
debt.
somebody else pay for it. I'm allergic to
Yeah,
loans.
let's go into debt.
So they'll make exceptions. I know I tried to teach at University of New Orleans, and they was like, "Oh no, you got to have a master's degree." I'm like,
Yeah.
ah,
See, that's
peace.
why I say I think they, we're so into debt here in this country as well. I think, like I
Hmm.
said, what's great about, like I said, another great thing about this time is, you don't necessarily have to go. I'm a graduate of the Art Institute. I don't know if I would recommend it necessarily. I mean, I
Hmm.
learned, you know, okay, not
Hmm.
definitely anything I learned on because they didn't have computers when I went to the Art Institute at that time.
Hmm.
It was just
Hmm.
traditional graphic
Yeah.
design. So I think now, with the advance of so many online schools that will give you much more targeted
Like Animation
trade
Mentor, I
animation
Animate.
mentor, Nomen. Well, Nomen's kind of getting up
Yeah, I
there
took a
too.
class at Noman this year. I
Yeah.
took a digital sculpting class because ZBrush, that was hard for me too.
Really? Well, I mean, like I said, I'm playing around with it, but it just blows my mind some of the work
If you
that.
do go to school, I would suggest Noman though.
Yeah, Nomen's like I said, Nomen is just top notch as far as just visual effects, animation,
Yeah.
sculpting. They got everything. But the advent of that is so much. It's still, even though Nomen can be expensive, it's not near as expensive as if you went to a
Yeah.
university
And
and
it's like
that
a
type.
2 year program that you
Yeah,
can do.
yeah.
And if you're
Plus, you
trying to
can
look up
take
Noman, it's
individual courses. You don't
yeah.
most
Yeah, I took
necessarily.
an individual
Yeah.
course. But if anybody is trying to look up Noman, it's GNOMON.
Yes. GNOMON. I always get that
Mm-hmm.
wrong. It's Nomen.
Yeah.
But they are
Mm-hmm.
great. Like I said, actually, like I said, they're taught by, and pretty much most of them are taught by working industry
Yeah.
professionals.
My
And,
my my teacher works at DreamWorks.
yeah. So I highly encourage, like I said, between online schools, hell, YouTube University. You could, if you're
Hmm.
so inclined. I learned a lot from YouTube. You can learn a
When
lot
I
from
started
YouTube.
at working for the state, I actually used it was called Digital Tutors at the time. Now it's
Yeah,
called
did
Pluralsight
you?
because
Yeah,
with YouTube it's sometimes hard because as someone who like needs direction, and so I was like, let me get this little subscription for Digital Tutors so they can tell me step by step what to do so I can learn
yeah,
Cinema 4D. So
yeah.
yeah,
Now it's just so many great, more inexpensive ways of learning, so you don't have to go into massive debt to feel
yeah.
like you need to get this degree in order to get a job. That's not necessary. They're not even necessarily going to look at your degree more than they're going to look at your reel or portfolio. So
Hit me up if you're wondering about resources.
yeah, and we're gonna put, and again, like I said, we're having a great conversation with Deborah here and all her contact info is going to be on the chat as well. You definitely need to connect with her because you will get a lot of resources. Definitely check out her YouTube channel because she also has a great show and has a lot of
Mhm.
great guests on there as well, for sure. Uh, wow, we're rolling into 2 hours here. But like I said, we can, it goes by quick when we're having such a
Mhm.
good, and like I said, when somebody like you, and I don't know if you experienced
Cause we
this
ain't even
with,
talked about the Herbal League.
yeah, we had, there's a lot of stuff we hadn't talked about. And
I'm
I
so
don't,
multifaceted.
yes. And I don't know if you kind of think this sometimes, like I said, when you're getting guests for your show,
Mhm.
um, because of the topic of, my show and, just wanting to promote, diversity and inclusion,
Mhm.
thinking that some people, like I said, kind of dance around or don't really, for fear of them
Yeah.
saying something that might implicate their studio or
Mhm.
somebody in their studio that's
Mhm.
not. I don't know if you think that sometimes trying to get guests that they just sometimes don't want to get into the deep conversations about race and diversity and that type of thing.
Yeah. Sometimes doing my research, if I find like interviews with them and I notice that they don't really address like topics of race, I just won't ask. Cuz I don't want a certain kind of answer where it's like, "Ah, okay, I guess." So if the person has enough interviews online where I can assess, I will pick and choose the people I address it
Gotcha.
with.
I have to keep that keep that in mind.
Because I just don't want to hear the like, we are all people. Like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
gotcha. Yeah, and I get, like I said, and and I don't know how, like, what's kind of been the highest level person that you've had,
Mhm.
on your show, but I
Of course,
get,
Dre.
like, what's that?
Andre, of course.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Well,
no, the highest level of like.
yeah,
Oh, I thought you
highest
were talking about
level
willing
in,
willing to talk about it.
yeah, willing to talk about
Um,
it, that's
I've
in
had
the
like
company.
Sydney Clifton. She's an executive.
Okay. See, I would love to get, like I said, an executive. That's
Mhm.
why I'm looking to get more executives that are, like I said, just, you know, willing to sit down and have an honest conversation about,
Yeah.
diversity and inclusion, not only within their company, but just in the
And I could
industry as a
understand, like,
whole.
if you don't know how to be diplomatic about it, like, that's a skill. Like, being able to talk about it diplomatically is a skill set. So, Sydney Clifton is great at that. And so, I understand if you are not good with words, then maybe you just, like, I'll just opt out of it. And some people's, their journey is different and they actually haven't experienced it. But with me, I've been staunchly involved in the urban league movement and I know the like from outright racism to microaggressions to like the implications of whatever people are doing, no matter
Yeah.
if you think it's racist or not, it can play in the long haul of things. And so I just have a totally different perspective. That's another thing from growing up with my father. Like I remember in my 20s, I would be like, well, how was I reading Native Son in middle school? Like,
That's a great
or
book.
like,
Yeah.
why was I doing this? And it's like, oh, he indoctrinated me. But
Yeah.
when I really realized it was when he like I asked him to before I moved here, I asked him to buy me some books from uh is it Claude Anderson, like Powernomics and stuff like that? And he's like, "Oh, you ain't read this? I had your nieces reading this." I was like, "See, you indoctrinate them too." I was like, "Nah, this I don't think this was out when I was younger."
Oh
But
man.
yeah, that's
No,
kind
but
of the
it's
history of it. I was like, I didn't realize it at first, but then I was like, oh, he trained me up in the way that I
great,
should go.
great dad, great dad. Just making you aware of the things. That's the key
Yeah.
thing right there, which I think a lot don't do that as well. So, like I said,
Yeah.
it's something that should be
Yeah, because
done
there's
more
always
of.
this like HBCU versus PWI conversation that circulates every couple years, and I was like, and some people were like, "Oh yeah, when I went to my HBCU, took an African American Studies class, and I learned more." I'm like, I didn't have to go to HBCU. My dad was my HBCU, so I could go to a PWI. I didn't need to go to HBCU to get like Black
Like
history.
the Black History
Plus, also
experience.
the reason I didn't go to HBCU because none of them had an animation program when I went to
Yeah,
school,
yeah,
and
yeah.
people were like, "Oh, well, you could have majored in art," but like I found out late. I found out my senior year. I didn't have time to figure out a strategic plan to be able to go to HBCU and still go to animation. I
Yeah.
just needed to go major
Yeah.
in animation.
Well, and to that as well, do you think that's because that was something I think I got into this conversation with Jaren about it
Hmm.
because she went to
Yeah,
HBCU.
HBCU. Hmm.
Them getting more programs to really, I mean, like we
Yep.
were saying before, that's a little late, but still getting a
Hmm.
program in there for them to go to and still attend a
Yeah.
historically black
I know Morgan
university.
State is a bit of an OG. Like they have the Swan program. Bowie State just got the deal with Leica. They're doing like a little studio there. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel of like HBCUs with animation programs, and then the comments people put additional stuff because there's either stuff that I overlooked or they now have a animation program. So yeah, I think VSU might have something, but I think Morgan State might have the oldest
All
animation
this,
program.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's definitely something that's needed. It gives them the
Hmm.
option of still going and attending if they so choose to want to attend the HBCU.
Yeah, and when
But
I was in New Orleans, one of the people actually at Xavier or
Xavier,
Dillard, once somebody had me come talk. Actually, I've spoken at both Xavier and Dillard, so it's hard to remember. But I actually had a guy reach out to me, and he was like, "Yeah, you came to Xavier." I think it was when I talked to the 100 Black Men or something like that. And he was like, "Yeah, I was in middle school, and now I graduated." I'm like, "Am I old enough to be able to
yes,
accomplish that? Like,
yes.
to talk to somebody in middle school and now they're grown? Like, what's the math on
Hey, time stands
that?"
still for no one, Deborah. Time stands still for no one.
I just didn't know if the math worked. I was like, I'm old enough to be able to accomplish that. Where I talked to somebody in
Yeah,
middle school and now
middle
they're an adult.
school. Wow. Well, do you hope to do more of that? I mean, to really like go to the grade school, middle school, and really, like you said, you're teaching Blender to ninth and
Hmm.
10th graders.
Yeah,
Um, and how do you
yeah.
feel
Like,
like they're picking it up and really getting into it?
well, I'm an awesome teacher, so
Not to, not to
I
toot
can
their
take.
own horn.
I mean, but I can take people from. I could take people from zero to hero very quickly. And so, actually, when I moved here, so I have a huge family. Like my mom is one of 14, my dad is one of 11 plus, my stepmom is one of 12. So I have like thousands of cousins. So there's cousins that I've never met. So there. I have a cousin here who, like, the first time I met him was the October before I moved here, where I visited and I stayed with him. And so, we were actually meeting like every day when I first moved here because I stayed in Highland Park and he stayed in South Pasadena, so it was like really close. And we were meeting every day because we was trying to do like animation program. Uh, like the pandemic hit, so we kind of had to stop. But we were like trying to meet, do an empowerment like
Mm-hmm.
course, and he was gonna because he did like a little thing with Facebook, so he knows some of the VR stuff, and I know the animation stuff. So we was gonna try to team up and like do that. We might get circle back to it, but yeah, I'm always trying to think of like ways to teach, and I have like a Cinema 4D. I have a couple free courses in Cinema 4D because I was trying to be like, okay, let me get the little free courses, and then I can do the little 3D for graphic designers course, which I've written up, but I haven't executed that. Um, and then I feel like in California, in Los Angeles, even though it's like so much animation here, there's concentrated a lot on video games, but
Mm.
people don't really be teaching like 3D for like film and TV. So I feel like that's a space that I can get in, and with more people, I would love to have more like events through like my BlkWmnAnimator platform to kind of get Black people to meet more, because I feel like people will know of people for decades, but it's always passing ships. Like, and so if I could create maybe a some events and not necessarily be exclusive, because sometimes stuff is exclusive. That's, I don't know if that's a LA thing, but like everybody can come.
Yeah.
So I would love to start doing that, but I have plans of teaching, um like my current plans are to try to get back to being a 3D modeler because I'm at a product like a post coordinator right now, and I'm going to be transitioning to being a editorial assistant. But eventually, I want to get back to 3D modeling. But the long game is like education. Education is a secondary passion of mine because of my father, and my mother, and so yeah, I want to do that.
So what's for you? What would be kind of like you want to get back into modeling, but what would be kind of like a dream project or something that you do in the future?
So at least like professional career wise, because my first job was working on Family Guy, I'm delivered from ever needing my like name in the credits ever again. I just need y'all to pay me. But anyway,
We're gonna get
but
paid, y'all.
but
Paid,
yeah,
y'all.
the reason I took a class at Noman in digital sculpting is because I have so many ideas of like for my personal work of like doing characters in 3D, like diverse characters, whether it be like Black Indians, Native
Yeah,
Americans,
yeah, yeah.
Black cowboys. Like I have a lot of ideas for, and it would just be modeling because that's my skill set. It wouldn't be necessarily animation, but also I told you about the animation because I commuted from New Orleans to Baton Rouge for 5.5 years, 110
Yeah,
miles a day. I have an idea for a road rage animated
yeah.
series
Road rage,
because I
y'all.
did have road rage. Yes, I did.
Road rage.
And so I have that idea. That will be the only. That's the only like animated project idea that I have. Other than that, I'm okay with being in my skill set and just doing modeling projects. So,
Awesome. Well, and to that point, speaking on Noman, how do you feel like you know your skill level is coming out of Noman modeling? Because like I said, you obviously have seen some of the amazing stuff that
mm-hmm,
ZBrush artists are doing with it. Where do you feel like your skill level is at now
mm-hmm.
before you went in?
Yeah, like you anybody who wants to see the like character I did, if you go to Deb the 3D modeler on Instagram, I posted the character I did. But I'm definitely more comfortable in ZBrush now. I feel like I have this my teacher gave me the skills, like different skills to be able to like construct a character, and like just I also want to use it for environments and stuff like that. But I only took one class, but my classmates, who are most of them are getting degrees, they are like very talented. So I would like highly suggest Noman because those people, like one of Sasha, one of my classmates, her project, I was like, whoo Lord, she is talented. She had like a very
did you
detailed
did you
model,
see a
like
lot of blacks attending the class, or what would you say the mixture
well,
is?
because of the pandemic, like
Well,
the reason I waited to January was because they were going back to in-person classes, but then the spike happened in LA, and so we only had maybe two in-person classes. Also, my teacher caught COVID, so we had to make up a class. Um, so I was like, I got to go on the campus, and like I was excited about like in person because I learned in college that online classes do not work. I actually forgot my senior year. I changed my major to a Bachelor of Science because I also knew that my degree didn't, what it said on my degree didn't matter, my work mattered. And so I got behind on my BFA in film and animation. So I was like, my dad is paying $32,000 a year, let me graduate on time. And so I had to take a math course my spring quarter, and I forgot about it because it was online. And so I remembered it like during finals week.
oh
I was
snap!
like, oh, I had a math class. So I looked up when the final was, and it was either it had just passed or it was going on when I looked it up. And so I contacted the professor, and she was like, "Yeah, you were doing great in the beginning." And so she let me take the final, um, and I actually graduated technically summer 2008 instead of spring 2008, but I walked. So
That was all that mattered. You walked. You walked.
I was like,
Oh
oh
man.
man. So I know online classes are not my ministry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Some people,
I
like I
this
said,
one
need
was,
the in person type
yeah.
of tutelage and stuff,
But
and
I'm
it's
definitely
always
more
best.
comfortable in ZBrush now, and I'm planning to take that. And with characters, you got to do the anatomy studies and all that stuff so that you can make sure you're doing it right. But
Mm,
I'm happy with my outcome from the class.
yeah. Trying to get Alex on as well as a guest. I think he makes it
Alex
work.
who?
Yeah. Alvarez, the one who started Novin. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So, I'd like to get him on. Um, but yeah, it's a great school for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely, you should if you're into. Like I said, they teach so many different things: visual
yeah.
effects, gaming, VR. Yeah, they're getting off into a lot of stuff for sure. Um, guys, this is like I said, we are rolling into past the 2 hour mark here. And I always try to be respectful of I get, and like I said, me and Deborah could obviously just go on and on and on for sure. But I know you guys, uh, you know, are don't want to stick it out
Gotta
too.
go eat lunch or
Yeah, you
something
gotta
or
go get
dinner,
lunch, and
depending on where
trust
you
me,
are.
yeah, and my stomach's kind of caving a little there too. So, but this has been like I said, we're definitely gonna have Deborah back on for sure. Not only to talk some more about just everything black
You know what you
and what's
should
going.
do? Have me and Andre talk about something with blackness.
Uh,
Also
yeah,
at the same
I'd
time.
be almost afraid to have. We'd all be going. You know, like I said, and that probably will be
And
something.
Jared.
Jared.
Jaren.
Oh, Jaren.
Richard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jaren. Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about doing, like I said, a little more. Because you were talking, just the stuff that you're thinking about doing and wanting to do. I
hmm
am kind of wanting to kind of expand a little out to maybe do like a summit, almost like an Afro
hmm
animation summit or something like that.
Yeah, I do
Uh,
little YouTube lives where I have panels, and actually, I did one after the George Floyd thing. It was called "What Y'all Think," and I had Jaren on there along with some other people
I can
because
only imagine. I'm
I
gonna
was
have to
like,
go back and watch that because I can only imagine what Jaren was saying.
some of the YouTube lives I've done actually have been passed around HR departments at different animation studios because the "What Y'all Think" was like, okay, this is all the things that they say they're being doing now. What y'all really think they
Yeah, what y'all think?
doing?
Yeah. But I say, like I say, and I think this really, if a company really wanted to be to really get good, they should have like in company panels with their
hmm
workers and really have a
Mm-hmm.
conversation and sit down and talk to them about what's going on and how they're feeling and
Yeah.
thinking. I think if more companies, the executives sat down and had a panel with the people, that's actually doing the work and working there every day, or not that they
Yeah.
don't, but that are actually doing it and going through it,
Yeah.
their company would really take a turn for the better.
Something I realized through doing like outside of my animation career, doing all like the Urban League and like different development programs, people don't be evaluating. Like I remember doing this one accelerator program in New Orleans, and I couldn't wait till the end to evaluate my coach because she was not it, and they
No.
didn't give us no survey. I was like, I done wrote down all this stuff. Like she did,
Oh
like she
man.
was good for if you have an idea and you need to kind of get it. But after we started executing, I was like, her business partner must be the one that do know all the stuff because
Yeah.
she not answer our questions. So evaluation, that's people don't be evaluating.
Yeah. I think if more companies did an honest evaluation, and I mean, like I said, you're cool with saying what you gotta say. There's no. I think there. Some
And no
people.
repercussions.
Yeah, that's what I say. No repercussions. It's just an open conversation about the things that are going on in the studio. They would learn a lot, and it would really
hmm
would help as far as just the overall uh, culture of the company. That's just my
hmm
thoughts, but I'm like okay, so. But definitely want to, like I said, do, like I said, some multi panels. Like I said, I'm bringing
hmm
on more guests, and just having a serious conversation. I did that a little with Joshua and um, um, Sean Bellinger.
hmm
Brought him
hmm
on. That was the anniversary episode, but brought him on. But would really love to do, like you said, a little more multi-panel and just have a deeper dive discussion with some people that, like I said, like Andre, just hey man, I don't care. We're gonna have a good talk, man, and just dive into it and really
Also, somebody
not
else
be.
you should have on your channel is Simply Robotics Monique. She does
Yeah,
diversity.
I think I reached out to her. We're going to have to reach out to her again. Uh, she might have scheduled. if Monique, if you're still on, let me know because I know I'd reached out and we talked, but I don't know if you booked yet. And definitely want to get more on for sure. But I hope everybody that's stuck with us during this 2 hours has enjoyed it because, like I said, Deborah and I, we could roll on for a while and just jib jab
Keep rolling.
for sure. You see how she is, and like I said, getting Andre and Jaron on, yeah, we'd be going for like 4 hours.
Oh yeah.
4 hours talking for sure. Yes, great convo. I appreciate you sticking it out with us, Monique. And again, like I said, I'm going to have to circle back around and reach out to you because I know I did initially, but like I said, I don't think you booked yet. Maybe you have. Uh, like I said, I'm booking for August now, so I'm so far ahead. That sometimes I forget, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the people that's booked. But again, we're going to, like I said, it's been a great episode for sure. Make sure that you get connected with Deborah. Check out her show, Black Woman Animator, because she does have some amazing guests on there. Definitely some people may want to get on for sure. Uh, but where is it at? Connect with her on all her channels. She got a lot of them. And check out her YouTube channels because she's got some great content on there as well. Uh, and you don't want to miss out. And she does some great work. So, you know, hire her. For some reason, she's always open. Um, but all this stuff will be on the show notes for sure. So make sure that you hop on over to the YouTube channel, check out the show notes, check out the show. Remember, comment, give a thumbs up. Trying to get the channel rocking and rolling, putting up more content. We may have her come on and do a ZBrush tutorial. She's.
Once I can do a Maya tutorial right now, but once I get it
Well,
around,
Maya, yeah,
once I
Maya.
get it, I'm gonna do ZBrush tutorials. But
Yeah.
once I get
Yeah,
it,
yeah, Maya. Like I said, I'm not a Maya fan, but you know,
but
I
I will do that once I feel like I can. I will. I'm willing.
but yeah, I'm looking to, like I said, I'm talking to Jaren, gonna have her come on and do some drawing sessions. So the
Mm.
channel's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be a creative channel, and we're gonna have a lot of great content. So I definitely want you to get plugged into the channel for sure. Uh, like I said, this has been a blast. And definitely one that I've been looking forward to, and definitely looking forward to having you back on the show, Deborah, so we can chop it up some more. And I'm going to have to reach out to Andre. Andre, if you catch this, I'm going to be hitting you up, man, so we can uh, coordinate all of this and get all of us on
That was
here.
him when he said, "My people was Dre 9."
Where is it at?
At the second after.
Oh,
After
okay. I didn't recognize your. You need to get a picture on there. I don't know why your picture's not showing up, man. See, Andre likes to slide in under the radar, man. See, Andre.
He's incognito.
Yeah, you're incognito, man. That's correct. Don't fly, man. You need to say, man, this is Dre. Just say it. This is Dre, man, and I would have known. So we need to get you back on, man. I love my guy Andre for sure, man. But gonna be reaching out to you, Andre, all of y'all. We're gonna have a kind of a multi-day one. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try and get that together for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I appreciate everybody hanging with us during this. It's been a fun conversation. Deborah, if you could hang out for just a quick second in the green room while I
Mm-hmm.
close out this. We're going to have a good time. All right. Everybody, please help me. Like I said, thank my very special guest and friend. I appreciate Deborah coming on and blessing us with her presence, her Michigan, Detroit presence.
313
313.
East Side.
313.
Detroit versus everybody.
I ain't from Detroit. I'm from Sandusky, man.
Oh, Cedar Point. What?
Yeah, see the point, man. 419. Represent. I usually have my Sandusky Blue Streak shirt on, so I like spraying my Sandusky Blue Streaks and propping them up. But everybody, like I said, appreciate you. I'm just getting silly now. Appreciate you hanging with us for sure. Like I said, Deborah, if you can hang out for just a moment while I close out the show. Everybody, please help me thank our very special guest, Miss Deborah Anderson. Guys, gals, hey, like I said, as always, I appreciate you hanging with me for sure. This has been one heck of a show. Sean, I think we kind of surpassed your time slot there, but it's been fun. And as always, I appreciate you, sticking with me, checking out the show, supporting the channel and everything that we're doing. Like I said, we're looking to do so much this year with the Color of Motion, really working, maybe doing some stuff with BlkWmnAnimator and really getting some content out there for sure. Like I said, it's been great hanging with me. Make sure that, like I said, you get plugged into all the channels. Jump on over to the YouTube channel, check out the show notes, and connect with Deborah for sure. Make sure that you tune in next week, because next week it's going to be a hot one, I think. So I definitely don't want you to miss out. I'm not going to say any more about it, but it's going to be a great one for sure. So I definitely want you to join me. With that, I hope everybody has a great weekend and a great week. Make sure that, you tune in, same bat time, same bat channel, and I will see you next week.